Welcome, Black.
Welcome, Black. You are listening to the Seeds of Revolution, Daughters of the Whirlwind podcast,
where we discuss legacy, history, resistance, and forward movement.
The revolution is live.
Hey.
We're black.
Right, and we're black. For episode 2 of season 4.
Crazy.
Yeah, it just seems like it just flows. It just goes and flows.
Season 4. Oof.
Yeah, still season 4. And for new listeners, I am Dr. Asantewa Sunni-Ali, and you can keep up with me at Daughters of the Whirlwind on social media, also at Acts of Liberation.
Yes, and I am Princess Mdaiyah Yisrael, and of course, you can keep up with me on Instagram at Daughters of the Whirlwind and at Princess_Mdaiyah.
And I am Aiyisha T. Obafemi. I can also be found at Daughters of the Whirlwind or at Aiyisha the Blessed. So welcome.
Yes. And we realize that for our listening audience, we have the same voice pretty much. So if you're not watching and seeing our names on the screen, you might get confused as to who is talking. So hopefully that helps. Yes, we are, again, excited about being in season 4. If you want to know more about us, like we said before, check out our previous episodes where we talk about like things that we do and what we do in the world. But you can find, who we are and what we've been doing. But you can find our bios, just some brief bios at seedsofrevolution.com. If you want to know more about us, more than what you'll find on social media. I also want to give a very special announcement. We will be screening my film, Seeds of Revolution, Growing Up New African, on Monday, December 23rd. So save the date.
Save the date.
Follow Seeds of Revolution, Daughters of the Whirlwind, all of us, so that you can get updates on how to gain access to the screening. The screening will be immediately followed by our final episode of part 1 of this season. So final episode of part 1. We're going to come back with part 2, but that'll be December 23rd, 7 p.m. Save the date. The film is just under an hour long, so we're not keeping you all night. And then we'll have our usual episode right after.
And the episode is live, right?
Yes, it'll be live, a live broadcast. So we'll talk about the film. It'll kind of be like a live talk back, plus us talking about, some of the themes of the film. Both Aiyisha and Princess Mdaiyah are featured in the film. So they'll talk about that experience. And then I'll talk about the experience of making the film.
Yes.
You don't want to miss it.
Yes. Like she said, save the date, December 23rd, Monday, December 23rd. Save the date.
7 p.m.
Woo.
Eastern time.
That's EST. So today we have a very special guest. As you can see, even if you're listening or you're viewing, you'll see that the title of this episode is Growing Up Sadiki. And so we are continuing our conversations about growing up with parents who are political prisoners in political exile, parents who are well known, or some may be lesser known to our community and the larger communities. But today our guest is Ksisay Sadiki. And so for those of you who do not know Ksisay, I will share a brief bio. Ksisay Sadiki is a mother, a daughter, a partner, producer, performing artist, and fierce advocate for social justice, Born into a legacy of activism, she has spent her life on the front lines, carrying forward the work of her veteran Black Panther parents, Pamela Hanna, and political prisoner Kamau Sadiki. She is the voice for her father, co-leading the international campaign to free political prisoner Kamau Sadiki, working to secure his release. Her fight for justice is deeply personal, as she has spent years advocating for his freedom during his long incarceration. And if I might say, decades at this point, she's spent fighting for her father's freedom. Currently, Ksisay is channeling her passion into her one-woman show, Iterations of a Black Panther Cub, an evolution of her earlier performance, My Firstborn. This powerful piece offers an intimate exploration of her journey as the daughter of Black Panthers and a political prisoner. Through this evocative performance, Ksisay sheds light on her family's legacy and its profound impact on her life. By sharing her story, she aims to educate and inspire audiences worldwide, providing a personal perspective on critical historical legacies and the ongoing fight for justice. A lighter side of Ksisay, she enjoys traveling with her grown children, and she also takes dance classes on Saturday.
Okay.
Again, welcome to the Daughters of the Whirlwind podcast, Ksisay Sadiki.
Yay!
Hey, welcome.
Welcome.
Ah, peace, everyone. I literally just oh man.
Well, take a breather. It is okay.
Yes. Yep. Take a breather.
So I know that you answer this question a lot. Like, everybody wants to know, who is Kamau Sadiki? And you know, we understand as Daughters of the Whirlwind, like, it's always difficult to pinpoint, where do I start? How much do I share? It's such a, like, we're talking about decades, people who are 70 plus years old. So I guess in lieu of who is Kamau Sadiki, like, what are some major things that people should know about Kamau Sadiki? So for those who have never heard of him, what are some things that they must know about political prisoner, brother Baba Kamau Sadiki?
Well, when I always say my father, because Kamau Sadiki is a quiet warrior. You know, when it's funny because I'm his daughter, but he always shares stories with me, and because I'm, you know, being Panther children, we've always been protected. Well, some of us have been protected. So there's always moments that he'll share something new with me, and I'm like, "Oh, you never told me that." So, but when I talk about Kamau Sadiki, I talk about him as a quiet warrior, a revolutionary from, like he says, he's became a revolutionary from his upbringings, from my grandmother, my Christian grandmother, who went to church all the time, and she was a no nonsense, you know. So when I think about my father, I think about a person who's principled, who believes in family, who believes in evolving, who's humble, who has so much like gratitude, and regardless of everything that he's going through, he's still inspiring to me. He's still my hero. He doesn't complain. He never complains. That's why I'm like, Daddy, you need to tell me what's going on. You have a whole campaign. And he's a loving person. He dedicated his life for his community. He joined the Black Panther Party because he believed in the principles. He was influenced by his brother. So it came from the family first. And experiencing racism, and you know, he felt that he didn't want to see his communities and families go through what they went through, what we're still going through. And so he's also decided, like, I have to take it to the next level. He believes in discipline. You know, I'm naming a lot of things because I love my father so much.
Yeah.
But again, I think he's that quiet warrior. And that's why I think a lot of people don't really know about him, because he was on the front line, but he's never been one to brag about what he's done, who he is, you know. So, and he's a great storyteller. And he loves science fiction. So those are some things about my father that I absolutely love.
That's great. That's amazing. Thank you. Because so often we hear like, you know, like the biographical kind of narratives. And so it's really refreshing to hear like, yeah, science fiction is his thing, you know, and he's a quiet warrior. Octavia Butler. Okay.
Yeah.
Very nice.
He's the one who told me to read The Wild Seed, because he's such a great storyteller that he would talk about like on growing up in Brooklyn. I know you're going to ask me a lot of questions, but just one little thing, like growing up in Brooklyn, he is such a storyteller, and he would have all the kids in the neighborhood come out, and like he would talk about like Octavia Butler, you know, and describe like The Wild Seed, and talk about Stephen King, and you know, and it had all the kids intrigued. So
nice. That's beautiful. That's a wonderful story.
I love it.
Yeah,
truly wonderful, truly wonderful. And it actually leads into my question, you know, if you could just please just describe Baba Kamau as a father, like, you know.
Wow. So we've had this bond from the beginning. You know, I always say this, my parents had me very young. My parents were teenagers. And so my father was arrested when I was born, basically. And so we were separated. And then in 9 months, just being underground, everything, I had the opportunity of seeing him. And my father always wanted us to be close. He was determined for us to have a relationship, regardless of everything that was going on, being on the front line, you know, just being out there. So he just made sure that even when my father went to prison in 1971, from 1971 to 1979, and wrote me so many letters. And my mother made sure that I went to see him. My mother would take me, we would get on the bus. I remember she would pack lunches and we would get on the bus and go see him. And there was always this bond and love. And not only did I have the love, like my own love for my father, but there was seeing that love between my parents too, even being so young, you know. So I always say I was made out of love. So that's why, you know, everything that I've been through, it's because of the love that I've received from my parents. It's the communication. My father got out of prison in 1979. I always share this. I remember that day. That was like one of the happiest moments for me, to be able to hug him, you know, outside those walls. So there's always been a bond. There's always been love. It wasn't easy when he came home, because he was about discipline, and I was like, who is this man? But my mother like said, you have to be a little soft with her, because he wanted me to be a martial artist and stuff. And then I was into dancing, and I was like, wow. So we developed a relationship, you know.
That's beautiful, though. Thank you for sharing that. Just, you know, like you said, these stories, sharing these feelings, it can be, you know, very touching at times. So we thank you for, you know, opening up and sharing that part of you all with us. So thank you.
Yes.
I only know that way to share. You know, I think that what happens is, as revolutionary children, is that we almost get separated from that part of us, that human part element, because we have this legacy and this responsibility. But it is the moments that I have, like the communication, the love, the remembering. That's what gives me motivation to do work.
Right. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and you in your bio, like you talk about, you know, campaigning for your father for years. or decades, really. And so you talk about the timeline of 1971 to 1979, but then we know that there's another timeline too, you know, when he was re-incarcerated in 2002. So could you talk a little bit about maybe that span of time from 1979 to 2002? I know that that's a large span of time, but just, you know, what kind of work, you know, he was doing during that time. And then what led to the re-incarceration? What, how many years? I can't do the math fast enough.
Like 23 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's, you know, the thing is, I think about when you talk about time, the timeline, because there was the before and then there's being home. And so never in this timeline did I ever think that he would go back into prison. So you're talking about coming home, and my father really, like, he went to, I always say this, he went back to school. He went to Queensborough College, and my father's very disciplined. His work ethics, he was like, I have to provide for my family. He got a job for the phone company. So he worked, I mean, his work ethics, he worked and provided for, made sure that I went to camps and like I had a normal life, a kind of normal life. You know, I always say this is duality.
Right.
And my father was around, like my mother and dad, like my mother and father couldn't live together, but my father always lived in the neighborhood. So when I moved to Brooklyn, he was there through school. You know, he was a dad, you know, he's a father. I had never, basically, like, I never expected him to go back into prison. So, you know, I had gotten married and have children. I have 2 kids. My kids are grown now. He, you know, with my daughter, he was a grandfather. You know, there's pictures. There's that campaign picture. That's my daughter.
Yeah.
And I worked. So fast forward, I worked for W Magazine. That's the whole thing about my life too, is that I had this arts background and worked in fashion and everything. And a lot of people didn't know about my past, you know, my family history or anything. And I remember coming home from work, and my children were younger, and their father was like, I need you to sit down because I have something to tell you. And I was not prepared for them to tell me that he was arrested again. Like, to hear that just sounded like, you know, I couldn't process it.
Right.
And my father felt so heavy, and of course he felt heavy. But when I said, I don't mean, not the word shame, but just the fact that that this was happening to him, and he didn't want me to feel this pain. And it felt like death. It felt like death. I remember going to court. He was in Brooklyn, and I remember it was a cold winter day, and I just remember just that feeling like I couldn't like understand what was happening again, you know. And I was scared, you know, like all the feelings, like when you experience like seeing your parent go into prison when you're younger, and then that trauma coming back, you know, like
resurfacing.
Resurfacing. So it was heavy. And that time also, I kind of just blanked out. Like, he got arrested. I remember going to he was in jail in Brooklyn, and he and I having these conversations, and he giving me instructions on things I should do, and like telling me like, it's going to be okay. This is going to pass. And it didn't. Taken to Atlanta. And like, you know, he lived in Brooklyn, you know, he was every day. So I think I really went in a deep depression for like a few years. And even all the support that he got in Atlanta, there were things that I didn't even know because I couldn't really function.
Yeah,
that
that had to
changed
be
too.
very heavy.
Yeah.
Very heavy. And that brings me to my question.
Yes.
One of my questions is, what do you do to take care of your mental and to stay balanced?
It's spiritual. It's my spirit. I have to say I'm 53 and I'm amazed at life. I am truly amazed at life. I'm amazed at its blessings. I'm amazed at how you feel like you can't get up, but through prayer and resilience, and here I am, you know. What do I do? So I dance. I love and I have amazing children. They're grown and they support. I have love. I have, great relationships. I write, I create. I I know, and I think it was one of the questions about my play, but like my outlet is like I don't like to hold in anything, and I don't even really like always talking about the past because I'm always about what's like let's move, let's
What's
be
next?
present.
Right.
So I like even with my father and everything that I was going through, like I went to film school and I worked at this place, Mazel's Documentary Center, and I was working on a documentary about my father, but I was like, I really need to make this his story and my story. I need to connect in a deeper way. And that's when I took all the letters and I just created a story based on his letters and just like, so that I have to always like be involved in some arts or activity or something that helps me with my mental. And I have a great partner too. I have a wonderful partner that, so it's love and peace and nature. So
That look, and I just want to say, you look great.
really good.
Yes, you do.
Well, we age very well.
Yeah, when you said 53, I was like 53 where?
Yes.
Yeah.
I share this story, but this is like, again, when you go through stuff and you go through more and more and more. In 2023, because I used to live in Yonkers, I had a huge fire and I lost everything. And I lost my father's letters. And although it was devastating, it was actually like a rebirth for me. And so it made me even be more grounded and spiritual and connected because I didn't have these things. And so so I really feel like I'm in another chapter of my life again. So I have this even deeper strength, and I don't know, light.
Yeah. So in talking about your artistry, because I do theater as well, and I have a one-woman show, so we have that in common, and film too, just around our experiences. So I can completely relate to using that as an outlet to to express, to heal, to document, to share the story. And it's a catharsis for you as the artist and the audience members too. So can you talk about that? I really love what you talked about in terms of like grounding the history in the now, for it to just feel better in your body and for you emotionally. And I noticed that you had one iteration of the one woman show and then it shifted. So was that a part of that shift of making it more, I guess, grounded in the present for you? And then were those letters that you collected, did that become the one woman show?
Well, so in 2019, again, I collected all my father's letters. I had a stack of letters like this, and I had this wallet. I had all this stuff, and I was like, I had interviewed him, and so I did my first performance at Mazel's Documentary Center for the Black Panther Film Festival, and I had the best audience because keep it real. So either gonna respond or not. So So that was like my opening challenge for myself, and I weaved into like the storytelling of my parents when they first met, going back to when they joined the party, because my father talks about all that in his letters, you know. So I was like, I'm gonna become them, and it felt so good, and I did like 5 performances, and I was taking it like January, right before the pandemic. I collaborated with Sophia Dawson, and we did this piece called The Visitor. And so she had art. It was an interactive piece. I had the play. We had sound. We had all this stuff. It was good. It was like, I was like, we got the AV, we got this music, got everything, video clips. And then pandemic happened. And then I was like, oh, so things changed and shifted. And then I was like, I don't even know if I'm ever going to do this play again, you know, based on what's going on and everything. But then again, something else happened in me where I started reflecting on my parents and just their age. And like my father always said, you know, he always makes jokes like, you chose us to be your parents. And I was like, wow, that's pretty deep, because I really feel like the roles have shifted. I haven't talked about my mom, but like my mother's incredible, and she's my mother. There's a whole other different kind of, like, I come from her womb. And so this play, it starts from Cosmos and going through my mother's womb and what that's like, and how I chose them. And so, and this is all, I was just guided, like I just guided this process. And so and I talk about like starting from my higher self, choosing to be a part of this is my story, you know, and being part of these 2 souls, and what that's like, because I really feel like in my life now, I've advocated for my parents so much, and I understand who they are. I almost feel like their parent now. And you know how we go through that. So the roles have changed. So I don't know. I'm just guided, and I don't want to have any limitations again. I think some things are a little too heavy to have to go back and always go back. I'm about being forward. I'm about educating people, but not feeling like, oh, I got to carry this weight.
Right.
You know, so it's evolving.
And it's really, I mean, that's just what it's about too. Like, it's about, you know, what works for you, you know, and if other people benefit from that, great.
Right.
You know, but to kind of, I guess, sacrifice yourself even more than you've already had to, you know, if you want to call it sacrifice, but, you know, not, you don't want to diminish what it is that you need, you know, in order to tell a story to other people either, which is, again, you know, I know we've said it a million times, but this is why we're also so grateful, you know, for you being here, you know, on this platform, you know, sharing. And one of the things that I did want to talk about was the fact that your father, you know, like you mentioned earlier, like your Christian grandmother, and how, you know, he even stated, like, with a mother like that, he feels like he was born to be a revolutionary. And so listening to you talk about, you know, how you devised the play and how you were really a vessel for, you know, these messages coming from the cosmos and the universe. Do you also feel like you were born to be a revolutionary, or you chose to be born a revolutionary because you spent your whole life, you know, advocating for both parents?
Yeah, it's funny. I and that's another thing. I like to bring some humor to it, because because okay, when I growing up, one of my other cousins, another Panther Cub, Giovanna Thomas, and unfortunately, Giovanna. And I know, and Giovanna and I were like this, like we were born together, and we used to make fun of our mothers because we had these Black Panther women that were different.
Yep.
We can relate. We made fun of our mom a lot.
and so Javan and I, we were just like, we're choosing a different life. Like, I don't know whatever, but this is what we want to do. And so we were actually being raised by her mother, Eni Thomas, and my mother, Pamela Hanna, who exposed us to everything. Like, they were just, I say, badass women, that just never accepted no, and exposed us to, like, we went to theater, we did everything, and they want, what is liberation for real? You have access to, and so that's how we were raised. And then and then going through, like, losing her, and that was another
Shift.
moment, another shift. So it's like, what am I doing now? But there are two moments where I really felt like, and this is not even talking about Giovanna, but I was like, I am a revolutionary, because when I was in college too, I went to Hunter College and I took African American studies. I was like, okay, I'm gonna get into my history, and I decided to read Asada's book, right? And I was like, I'm gonna choose Asada's book because that's a whole other part of, like, not feeling like I could always talk about that, because it's just different. You can't talk about everything. We learn, we taught not to say things, and so it was in that class that I was challenged by my professor, because he was like, you can't just have any kind of paper. But I said, I'm going to do my essay on this book. And everybody in the class were like, oh, Ksisay, how come you didn't talk about this? How come you didn't mention this part of you? And that was like a first, like, oh, it's okay.
Yeah.
Hey, you have support. I was traumatized as a child from seeing a lot, and my family being considered, criminals and everything, and seeing all that stuff and news and stuff. So it was the first time I actually felt like I can relax a little bit, or not feel this duality of, like, you're this person, you're that. And so that was like the first time that I really felt like, it's all right to embrace this. And then the second time in my life, in terms of being a revolutionary, was when my father did get rearrested, and I took a family trip this is when he was in Augusta, where he is now. And I took a family trip with my mom and my dad to visit him, and took a road trip. And when we got there, I was the only one let in. Like, they deliberately said to my children and my mom, you can't come in. And so I was so like, what? And my mother was like, you can do it. You can go in. You can go into this prison alone, and you're gonna be like you can do it. And so I was scared, but when I went in, I saw my father, and it was like the first time since he had been arrested that he'd been there, that he and I could actually sit down and talk. And that was the time that he actually gave me instructions and, like, really, like, prepared me in terms of what I needed to do, in terms of just being his voice. And so that was like a moment that I was like, okay. And I had a friend that also went with me on that trip, and she documented everything. So she got all these black and white photos, these photos of the emotion, because it was a heavy trip. But even through that, like, the pain, but I walked out like lighter and stronger, and connecting to my father, like, on a whole other level. That really gave me, like, some deeper grounding and strength to be able to do this work. And then that also helped me with again with my play too, because just that one-on-one connection with my father, because now I really do feel like I am really the voice for him. So those are two revolutionary moments.
Yeah. Where you didn't decide, it came to you. It came through you.
Yeah.
And we know that revolution, acts of revolution and revolutionary actions are grounded in love. It's grounded in that emotion. So yeah, I appreciate you for, sharing that. And I was watching another interview that you did where you talked about you made this kind of beautiful connection between emotion and strategy, because oftentimes people might look at it as a binary, like, okay, if you're emotional, you can't get your head straight together, enough to strategize. But it feels to me, even through your sharing just now, that you've used that emotion in order to strategize. Like, you've used that emotion and that deep love, that deep raw connection to fuel your action. And that's just really, it's really beautiful. And I think it's a great example, because, as you know, like, even before our current political news and climate, which hasn't changed much. I mean, we don't have to get into that in the details, but it's not much that's going to be shifting, because it is what it is. This government is what it is. But oftentimes, as Black people, and especially younger ones, we don't know what to do with our emotion. We don't know how to channel. So, thank you for giving that example of, how to use that emotion to create change and to keep forward, to keep pushing forward.
And that's revolutionary.
Yeah. I've also, with the strategy piece, so I've learned about policy and strategizing and all that stuff. Like, I've always been an artist, but I work at an organization now where I'm a senior policy associate, and that's not my background. So I've learned about local and state policy, and going to Albany and advocating and really having the tools and knowing like what it is about to push a campaign forward. So now when I am involved in my father's campaign, I use that, because to say that role, it is not in a very emotional role. It's like, yo, what are we doing? We need to do this work.
Yeah.
I took on a position just because I knew that I would have to have this role for my father. And again, I never thought in a million years that I would be, writing one pagers or like, going into Albany or wherever and meeting with electeds and, but I use that. I'm grateful for that. I have that knowledge so that I can use that for my father with his
Absolutely. And
that's
I think no, it is. It's very, very. That's a great blessing, because when you're able to utilize the tools that you have to help and to work in, multiple facets of your life, that's a great blessing. I cannot move forward with my next question without first shouting out Eni. Yes, I lived with Eni.
You did?
Yes. So in Atlanta, actually around the time when everything happened with Javannah, I was living with Eni. So yes, talk about a powerful woman. She is
and funny. She's still funny.
Yeah. Shout out to Eni Thomas.
Wow.
And a killer.
And
so when you bringing all that up, it does bring a lot, and that is when you say a shift, because it shifted a lot of things, for so many people. And so I think taking those moments to acknowledge that is so important, because a lot of times, for us as these revolutionary children, people think, oh yeah, y'all used to drama and y'all used to trauma, not even drama, but trauma. So y'all can just get over it, but you don't get over it. You just shift and you kind of maneuver through. And as you have stated and shown us, and as even my our younger sister has shown us, you use it to catalyze or catapult rather your art, and that's a beautiful thing. So just in the memory of Javannah, I know that's a beautiful, expression, and she would be elated to, see it and be a part of it. But and going back to your father, I know we talked earlier and we were talking about, the medical updates that you may have for us, so that we, can be aware of what we can do to help, what we need to pray for, what action we need to take, at this time for him. So if you could give us an update on your father's medical.
Well, this is really deep, the timing of this, because I actually got a message yesterday that my father just went in had a procedure done last night.
Mm.
I don't know if I know through his website stuff. So, my father has these these wounds on his ankles. And before he went to prison, he didn't have those wounds. And he hasn't had the proper treatment, the wound care. And so even when he was healing, like each time he'd start healing, you have nurses that don't have that expertise. And so they're like bandage, putting stuff on it or whatever. He starts healing, but then they're like, I learned too, this is something he actually explained to me the other day, that because of the wounds, just that bacteria, and so it just continues to grow on the new skin, so the old skin doesn't heal. He experiences a lot of pain and stuff, and so I've been dealing with his wound situation for a long time, up until like a few years. I say a few years. It's hard to keep track of the times I've had to advocate or call the prison and be like, what are y'all doing? Because like he had gotten wounds had gotten infected and everything. At this moment, again, I had communicated with him, and he said that the wounds were starting to flare up again, and he was in a lot of pain. But I didn't know that he would be going to the doctor. I'm not the doctor. I didn't know that he would have an emergency procedure like last night. So I reached out to his, because, through the campaign, we have the legal team, medical research team, and I reached out to his lawyer, or one of my comrades on the team reached out to his lawyer, and I have to follow up with her today. So again, it's always this, I don't.
Yeah.
I'm worried. I'm worried.
No, I'm sorry. I was saying it's the unknown of what happens there, because they don't notify you. They don't care to notify family. It's just like, hey, we're going to go do. And then you got to make sure that they are actually fixing or actually, working properly, as you said, because when the nurses come in, if they don't properly clean it or put the, the salve on it or whatever needs to be, the bandage, it causes more damage than good. Right. So I definitely, working in the medical field, I know exactly what you're speaking on. And, our prayer is that the procedure went well, and when you do get the news, that it'll be something that, we can celebrate and be happy that it's healing and it's going in the right direction. And prayerfully, that's what this is about. And, of course, I'll check up and see what's going on once you get the update. So we can update everybody here as well.
Yeah, it's on. These things are ongoing,
Yeah.
And
so with that being the case, how can we as a community support you and your family more effectively?
Yeah.
Like, what can we do? What should the charge be?
I know, and that's always a question that I even try to figure out. I always say that it's like to go on his website and to support. There's no action to be taken really right now until I have some clarity on what is happening. In addition to his wounds and medical, we are fighting for him to come home in 2025, uplifting that, and so I'm in that mind state of like, when he's home, what do we do? So we're like we want to get housing and everything. And I always say, I always suggest people to make donations and stuff to assist, so that when he's home,
He has,
he's gonna be set up,
Right. Yes.
But again, in between time, it's just like, the uncertainty of the unknown, as you say, that it's hard to give a direction of, what to do next when I'm not sure. I'm being honest.
right. Yeah.
I mean, well, we know that we still have to fight for his
Yes.
freedom. We have to fight
freedom.
for him to receive proper medical care while he is still behind the wall.
Yes.
We have to fight, for you, so that you have the strength to continue to do the work that you're doing along with the rest of the team.
Yeah.
And just pray.
Yeah.
And,
prayer.
And keep you all lifted. Like that's important.
Yeah. And again, he being my father, he's not gonna share every little thing that he's feeling or going through out of protection for me, for his daughter. But I think, even having me on the program, just talking about who he is, letting people know who is Kamau Sadiki, because again, he is one of the what do you call it?
Unsung heroes.
Yeah,
Yes.
and so
Truly.
And again, like with the campaign work and stuff, it is ongoing. And one of the things I really like, I always say this, that our parents, and I know y'all are going through this, our health, it's just so important. We have to take care of ourselves.
Yes.
Because there's so many Panthers, there's so many that have gotten so ill or sacrificed themselves for others, and neglected themselves. So I always say we definitely have to help. We have to be healthy.
We do.
Sure. Yeah. I always say, go ahead. just on that note, that's one of the things, our mom passed away in 2016, and Aiyisha Sunni-Ali, we forever lift up her name. But that's one of the main takeaways, that I have, not from her life really, but from the circumstances surrounding her passing. And that is really, to take good care, to be strategic about that, about, how to pour into yourself and have joy. And like you said, find that humor, laugh. We do a lot of laughing on this.
Oh yeah, we laugh. We're silly.
This episode we had to laugh.
We're silly. It's okay.
Yeah, and it's needed. It's necessary. You have to have that balance. Because life is about more than struggle and pain, and we deserve, like we're not born to, because I love what you said, but we're born into the families that we're born into, and I do agree that we choose. There is some choosing happening, but I think also that choice is to bring light and to bring joy and to bring, my family, laughs and says I'm the comedian of the family, or, and I take pride in that. Like, yes, let's laugh, because I'm the youngest, you know, and from the, you know, being the youngest, my younger days, I'm looking around and I'm like, this shit is heavy. Somebody got to make a joke around here because, like, is this it? Like, is this what it is? So,
You're
yeah,
right.
that laughter and that balance is vital, like for our survival. Like we deserve it.
And I didn't laugh a lot when I was younger.
Yeah, you did not.
I didn't laugh because I was having to make sure y'all were okay, and you know, all of the things. You know? But yes, but at 57, I'm laughing.
Yes, because it's life is like, it moves, you know, and it's precious,
very fleeting.
And I love having fun.
You know, when I think about the good times, even the bad times, that, you know, some funny things were happening during the times, you know, we can laugh about some of those too. I mean, it's a real thing.
And I want to, it's not, most people wouldn't think it's funny, but like you said, our parents are getting older. They're in their sickness, you know, in their sick stages or ailments and things. And our father is in a space now where he's, you know, having some hallucinations. And I'm talking to my daughters earlier about it. And it's not funny, but it's funny because even my father was telling me this one story. He said it's gonna be funny, but it's not funny. And he was like, yeah, the puppies was running around on my ceiling fan. So he started laughing, and I'm trying to be like, should I laugh?
Right? Is this funny? But yes, it's funny.
Yes.
I told my daughters,
because you know he always made jokes.
Exactly. They said one thing about Pop, no matter how sick he is, he's gonna tell a joke.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is so true. Like we have to, like even they show us you have to find laughter in all of it, or you will really be sad.
But they did make sure we always had fun in the house. Like we had fun. Like,
and those are the funny things. And to most people, they probably looking like, y'all laughing at that, and we like, yeah, because why not?
It's funny.
Right.
People too, they come to you already with this whole narrative, like they come heavy, and I'm like, I don't want to talk about heavy, like this is how you do it. I'm like,
you're like, I'm good. How are you?
Right. Yeah, I'm good. And like, hey, I'm going through this. Are you going through this, or am I going through this?
But you know what it is? It's like they want you to fill up their plate with it.
Yeah.
Full of all, like no, like
right. And that's what I was talking about earlier. That burden that sometimes you know is put on revolutionary children,
right?
To like perform sadness and heaviness, and
I'm not doing that.
I'm just me. You
right.
know, it's this, and then there's also this.
Exactly.
You know, that's why shout out to your mom, you know, Mama Pamela, for taking you to the theater.
Oh,
you know,
yes.
I'm interested in those things. Like, what plays did she take you to? You know, like, you know, where were you? Did you do Broadway? Like,
I'm a Broadway person. I love Broadway. Like, that's the thing. Eni and my mom were like, that's the part I want to include in the play. Eni and my mom, we grew up in Queens, right? So they would take us on the train. Javana and I would have our little cute dresses on, you know, grease us up because, you know, like put us in our pink dresses and my leather shoes. And we get on the train and we swing around the trains would be empty and we get to Manhattan and we're like, and they would take us to dinner and then they would take us to Broadway. We saw like back then there was a chorus line like The Wiz, Ain't Misbehaving, like all these plays.
Classics.
And we would be singing. And then we after the play, so we dinner, the play, and then they take us to Times Square, 42nd, where we go see a double feature. And we always saw films that we were not supposed to see as kids, but we were just like, we're just gonna be, and then it's like your feet stuck to the ground because it's all like New York City grit. And then we get home really late, but it was a New York experience. It was like real New York, Then my mother and Eni always bought the album. And then Joanna and I would create plays and have them sit, and they would be so bored. But then we would just always be like, "We have a play for you," But we had great. I had a great childhood. Like they made sure that in addition to going to the court,
right,
and being on trial and seeing this heavy stuff, that they were going to make sure we were kids and we played and we had imagination, so they really protected us, and so that's another thing. I like, people think, oh, you had a heavy, I mean, yeah, we had heavy moments, but we had wonderful moments.
Right.
So it was theater that I love theater. And my mother, even Eni and I, we have little jokes, and we just, it's just, we had fun. We had a lot of fun. We went to camps. We went to Joanna and I went to camps in Long Island. Like, I still remember a creative, like this camp, sleepaway camp, Johnny Appleseed, where we got to be kids and play and have theater experiences. And I taught all the little white kids how to pop and lock.
Nice.
That's
I'm picturing that.
I was like, okay, y'all. Braiding the hair.
Wow. Yeah. So those are the things that we love to share. And I think people don't expect that side, that we have a different side. They only want to, sometimes people only want to know one side. So they don't even care to know that you had a good time. They want to feel like you had it rough all your life. So this is beautiful to be able to share that, and my sisters and I, we talk about that often throughout our podcast, about the great times, the beautiful times, the times when it didn't look like it was going great, but we made it great. You know what I'm saying? Like, because our parents was like, no, we're going to have a great time, or our aunts come get us, or our uncles, and those are very important. That's very important, because as children, they didn't want us to lose our innocence. Right. So yes, so we have, and that's right. Like, what you?
I said completely.
Completely.
Right, because like you said, y'all watch stuff that y'all most like. And Amy's good for that. She don't care. Like, so the thing is, I'm glad that we're able to express that. You brought that out. That's the side of us that many people don't understand. Like, look, besides all that, we had a great childhood. We grew up, we had this, we explored, we traveled, we did so much more. So thank you for even bringing that out, because it's so important for people to really get to see who we are, aside from who our parents are, and as and who we choose to be now. Of course, we're revolutionaries, all that. But hey, like you said, we have normality. We have some normalness in our hearts.
Yeah, it's not one-dimensional.
No, we're not one-dimensional.
We're multifaceted.
Exactly.
Exactly.
So that's a great thing. And you was talking about your father, create a will and being released in 2025. So I was listening to, I can't think of what I was listening to, so I don't want to try even to remember right now. But I overheard where they were talking about possibly your father being on the pardon list for the Biden administration, like, in his exit, how some of the presidents pardon. So have you heard about that, or is that something?
I haven't heard that, but
okay. Yeah, my father was listening to something, and I'm with him, throughout the day. And so when he's listening to stuff, of course, I'm hearing stuff. And, regardless of his ailments, he's constantly on Zoom calls and conferences.
Organizing, still organizing.
So when I'll try to research it more and get that information for you. But I just, that it was mentioned. So I wanted to ask if that was even on the table. But it'd be great if it is. And Yeah, maybe try to research how it even can be, because we know that it can happen.
Yes.
It should happen. Like they hearing about a can, it should happen. That's something you should be doing. So, yeah, I mean, I hate when our conversations end.
I know, and that also makes it means we have to really see each other. Like we all really
Yeah.
do need
Yeah.
a space,
Mhm.
and a space like when I say retreat or some place fun where we can really talk too,
Yeah.
like just have
Yeah.
more time,
Really.
share and
Yeah.
laugh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
cry
For
or
sure.
whatever.
It's
Yeah.
coming. It's coming. It's coming.
Coming,
Yes.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I just want to say one thing, like, and again, with my father's release and coming home, I have to share this with between my father and my mother. That's so cute and sweet. That, like, again, my mom has been really ill. That's a whole other piece that I've, just on her with her by her side and stuff. But she's like, I can't wait to see your father. Like she's like, I would just love to go to the movies with him, like little things like that they used to do. And so it's like in his freedom and coming home, like for me, that would just be like the highlight of me and them go to the movies together,
Yeah.
like little things, like, and they
Mhm.
both talk, ask about each other and stuff. And it's sweet, just
It is.
so that's what I'm looking for.
Yeah. Maybe they can go to Times Square and do a double. But yes, we're lifting up. I echo what Princess Mdaiyah said earlier. Like we are lifting up, lifting you,
Yes.
lifting your father, lifting your mother. We hope that she continues to heal. Through the ailments that she has and what she's experiencing, and that you continue to heal.
Yes.
And all of those who are involved with this campaign, because it is, we talk about the joy, but it's all the things. It's all
Right.
the things, and it's heavy lifting, and it's constant. Just like you were saying, like, oh, last night there was something. So it's constant, and we recognize that, and we thank you, we thank you so much for your
Thank
time,
you.
your
Thank you.
energy.
Yeah.
And in the spirit of lightness, we close our episodes with what we call the Power Five. Some of the statements are heavy. They're heavy terms.
Wow.
However, you can respond to them with the first thing that comes to your mind. So the first one is political prisoner.
Freedom. Freedom. Captured.
The next one is whirlwind.
Oh, no. I don't know. Y'all tag y'all.
We're all daughters of the whirlwind. I'll say
I
that.
know.
We're all daughters of the whirlwind.
Yeah. The third one is, who is your favorite revolutionary?
Wow. I always, again, my father comes to mind just because I just have this great love for him,
Mm-hmm.
and he just has. I have a soft spot in his heart, and I just love his resilience, and even through everything, he's still like hopeful and grounded,
Yeah.
And also, I'll say I love Yuri Kochiyama because Yuri
Oh,
Kochiyama.
she's one of my favorites.
Yuri Kochiyama. So I named my daughter after Yuri, and Yuri like made me have more, not necessarily more respect, but just with all the going to so many meetings throughout my life and stuff. And like when I met Yuri for the first time, I remember going to her house and just being like, oh my God, Yuri. And just her energy. And she would just like, and when I had my daughter, she took the train. She had a backpack. She took the train to the Bronx. She brought me some orange juice and something else. And she and my mom just sat like on the floor, like we were kind of on the bed on the floor, and she just held Yuri, my daughter, and I was just like, I love you, Yuri. So I love Yuri.
That just made me emotional. That's one of my favorite people. The only person, not the only person, but you know, with her little self.
I know.
Whenever we get to her apartment, I would get so happy because I knew that my mother couldn't do anything.
Right.
Whenever Yuri said, go.
Yeah.
She was the sweetest.
Always had something for us to do, something for us to enjoy, and just to keep us occupied. So Yuri Kochiyama is like, her whole presence is forever, like always going to be surrounding us, because that was her mission. You know, she loved us. She loved the revolution, and she loved the children. She showed so much love, and so we're all blessed because to know her, to have loved her.
Yeah.
Yep.
And she saw you like that. I know we're doing our Power 5, but we got to pause. We got to pause for Yuri.
We have to pause for Yuri.
For those who don't know, like, please, do your research. Yes. But she, Malcolm X actually took his last breath in her arms.
Yes.
And they shared the same birthday.
They shared the same birthday. Great warrior.
Yes.
Great Japanese, woman.
About 3'4".
Yeah.
She's so excited.
Small, she was more like 6'1".
Yeah. Small but
in
mighty.
Her head. She was,
small but mighty.
Small but mighty.
So big shout out to Mama Yuri Kochiyama, and may she
love you, Yuri. We love you,
Yuri. Yes. So the next one is like I said, I'm a theater person too. What's a play that everyone should either read or watch?
Wow. It's been so long since I've seen like a really good play. Wow.
You can go back.
I can go back. So I remember even when I saw The Wiz, but like the original Wiz and Eight Misbehaving, like those were two like The Wiz with the dancing and The Wiz, like my mom and I would sing those songs. I remember my mother singing "Be a Lion," and like so that play was so close to me as a kid.
Yeah,
the storytelling and the dancing and
I was gonna say those were some real serious messages in those songs.
Oh, definitely.
People took it as like, but it was intent. Be a Lion, like that's serious. That's serious.
And it was with Stephanie Mills back then.
Yes.
Powerhouse of
another tiny powerhouse, like big voice.
Yeah, that was
okay. And so the last one is what is your prayer for the next generation?
Wow. I when I think about the next generation, I think about our history. Like I think I want them to live in a healthy environment where they have access to our land and they're not so brainwashed by all of this everything. Like have a sense of understanding self and there's such a detachment to nature and our source. And even when you said like even part of my inspiration with my play is so that I can reach our youth. I can talk to them, because even one time I did a play for students, and they were just like, do Black Panthers even exist? Or I didn't think they had children. They had so many questions. And there's such a gap. Like there's just so much that we don't know.
Wow.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true. And even older, not just like young children, but like
The
people
older.
in their 20s, teens, like, yeah, there's a definite gap in the information. So I affirm that prayer for the next generation.
Yeah. And that's why we will keep telling and sharing our stories.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I say.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. So yeah, we definitely have to connect offline and
Yes.
continue these conversations. Thank you so much.
No, thank you.
Joining us today.
Thank
And
you so
Free
much.
Kamau Sadiki.
Free.
Right.
Yes.
Free
Free.
Kamau
Free them all.
Freedom. All right,
Yes.
y'all.
All right. Have a good
Okay.
one.
You too.
Take
We'll
care.
see you soon in person.
See you soon. Yes.
Yes.
All right.
Peace.
Yeah, peace.
Ah,
Man.
Such a powerful conversation.
yeah.
I love her spirit. It's just
It's so beautiful. It is so beautiful. And it's so just like
Calming.
and
That's always,
I love that for her.
yeah, always how she is.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. I love that for her.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, like what we were talking about earlier, like each one of us carry it differently
Mhm.
and has helped us to become who we are. So, and that's a beautiful thing. We
And ever evolving. Like it's still, yeah.
Ever evolving. Ever evolving.
Yep. It don't stop.
Because how we carry it today is not how we carried it yesterday and during childhood. So it's beautiful also, to see the evolution. And I just love the models. I just love the examples of different ways of being, because we are, like we said, we're multifaceted, we're multidimensional, and I love that we're able to see that and exemplify that on this platform.
Yes.
And I want to say too that, there's a lot that wasn't said, and there's a lot, we all were intentional about that. And so definitely go to freekamau.com so that you can read the full story, so you can understand a little bit more about the timelines and, why he was incarcerated in 2002, and it's still incarcerated 22 years later, after doing 8 years in the 1970s. Go and do that research. This is kind of like a lecture in class. Like, you got to do the reading too. You got to do the reading to fully understand the lecture.
Yeah.
So go and do your reading, do your research, and make connections, so that you can fully grasp and appreciate, what Ksisay, shared tonight. So generous in sharing her spirit, her energy, and her vulnerability. So yeah, I love y'all. I love y'all.
Love you too.
And I love doing this. So let's do it again. Let's do it again.
Same time, 2 weeks from now. No.
Yep, see y'all in 2 weeks.
No.
Thank you for tuning in.
Yeah.
We appreciate you.
Yes.
Yep, stay tuned. And again, catch up on past episodes.
Yes.
Follow us to just, see what's happening. We'll be posting.
And share.
And
tell
share.
a friend.
Yeah,
tell a
definitely.
friend. To tell a friend.
Definitely.
And y'all got to remember to free them all. They all deserve to be free.
Yeah, free all political prisoners.
All political prisoners and prisoners of war.
Ashe. Ashe.
Yes. Ashe.
All right, peace, y'all.
Peace. You have been listening to the Seeds of Revolution, Daughters of the Whirlwind podcast. Be blessed.
Be blessed.
Look for me in the whirlwind.
Hey, revolutionaries. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Seeds of Revolution, Daughters of the Whirlwind podcast. To join the family, like, subscribe, and share with who you think should be a part of the fam. Comment if y'all want us to cover specific topics or if you have questions. Peace.